Daniel Brooks sat at his wife's family dinner table being laughed at and humiliated by everyone in the room. What none of them knew was that the house they were eating in, the house they claimed he did not deserve, was legally owned by him, and the truth was about to come out before the night ended. The dining room was warm and bright, filled with laughter that did not include Daniel. Plates clinked, wine glasses touched, voices overlapped. Daniel Brooks sat at the end of the table with his shoulders slightly hunched, his hands rested calmly on his lap, his face unreadable. Across from him sat his wife's parents, Margaret and Henry Collins, well-dressed, well-fed, well-convinced of their own importance. The table was long, polished, expensive, the kind of table meant to impress. Daniel had bought it, quietly, but no one knew that. Not even his wife Alicia. Alicia sat beside him, avoiding his eyes. Her smile was tight, practiced. She laughed when her parents laughed, she nodded when they spoke. Daniel noticed, but he said nothing. Margaret lifted a serving dish and placed it in front of Daniel with exaggerated care. "Here you go, Daniel," she said. "Make sure you do not spill it." Laughter followed. Daniel smiled politely. "Thank you," he said. Henry leaned back in his chair, swirling his wine. "So Daniel," he said. "How is that little job of yours going?" Daniel met his eyes calmly. "It is steady," he replied. Henry chuckled. "Steady," he repeated. "That sounds like another word for stuck." More laughter. Alicia shifted uncomfortably. "Dad," she said. "Please." Henry waved her off. "We are just joking," he said. "Family can joke." Margaret smiled thinly. "Of course," she said. "We only want what is best for Alicia." She glanced around the room. "We expected our daughter to marry someone more established, someone who could really provide." Daniel nodded slowly. "I understand." A cousin pointed at Daniel's shirt. "Is that the same jacket you wore last year?" he asked. Daniel looked down. "It is comfortable," he said. The table erupted again. Someone whispered. "She could have done better." Daniel heard everything, he always did. He remembered signing papers months earlier. Standing in a quiet office. Transferring funds. Registering property. The deed was in his name. Only his. He never mentioned it. Not out of fear. But out of principle. Alicia had said she wanted independence. Her parents insisted on hosting dinners. Daniel agreed. He believed humility was stronger than pride. Margaret leaned forward. "So Daniel," she said. "When are you going to start earning real money?" Silence fell briefly. Daniel looked around the table. At the faces filled with expectation, judgment, entertainment. He smiled softly. "Soon," he said. Henry laughed loudly. "We have been hearing that for years." Daniel nodded. "You have." The lights above the table glowed warmly. The house hummed quietly around them. The house Daniel owned. The house his name was etched onto in legal documents locked away in a safe. Daniel folded his napkin carefully. Took a breath. The night was still young. And the truth had not even stood up from its chair yet. Dinner continued with forced smiles and sharp words dressed as jokes. Daniel listened more than he spoke. He always had. Margaret passed the bread basket and skipped Daniel entirely. "Oh, sorry," she said without sounding sorry. "I thought you were done." Daniel reached calmly and took a roll himself. "No problem," he said. Henry leaned toward his brother. "You know," he said loudly. "If Alicia had married someone with ambition, they would not still be living here." Alicia flinched. "Dad," she whispered. Henry shrugged. "I am just saying what everyone is thinking." Daniel looked at Alicia briefly. She would not meet his eyes. Alicia's sister Claire laughed nervously. "At least Daniel is polite." she said. That counts for something. Margaret smiled thinly. Polite does not pay property tax. Daniel nearly smiled at that. The cousin raised his glass. To family, he said. And to hoping next year is better. They all drank. Daniel set his glass down untouched. He remembered the first time he saw the house. Empty. Quiet. Sunlight across the floor. He remembered signing the final document. The agent shaking his hand. Congratulations, Mr. Brooks. You are the sole owner. He had kept it private. Not as a secret. As a test. Margaret stood and began clearing plates. Daniel moved to help. She stopped him with a look. Oh no. She said. Sit. You are a guest. The word guest hung in the air. Henry checked his watch. We should talk about renovations soon. He said. This place needs upgrades. Daniel nodded. It does. Henry smirked. Maybe when you finally get promoted you can help. Daniel replied softly. Perhaps. Alicia finally spoke. Can we change the subject? She said. Margaret sighed dramatically. Fine. She said. Let us talk about the future. She turned to Daniel. What are your plans exactly? Daniel folded his hands. Stability. He said. Henry laughed. That again. Daniel looked around the table. At the laughter. At the comfort built on assumption. He leaned back slightly. And spoke evenly. This house. He said. Has good bones. The table quieted a little. Daniel continued. It rewards people who maintain it. Who respect it. Henry waved him off. You sound like a renter. He said. Daniel smiled. Appearances can be misleading. Margaret returned with dessert. Placing a plate in front of Daniel last. Here. She said. Try not to stain the table. Daniel looked at the polished surface. Then at her. I will be careful. He said. His phone buzzed in his pocket. A notification. A reminder. The property tax confirmation had cleared that morning. Daniel excused himself calmly. I need some air. He said. Alicia watched him leave. Something uneasy stirring in her chest. Outside Daniel stood on the porch. Night air cool. Quiet. He dialed a number. Yes. He said. Please send the documents now. Inside the dining room Henry laughed again. Still out there pretending. He said. Margaret shook her head. Some men never know their place. The printer in the study downstairs began to hum. Alicia looked toward the sound. Her heart beat faster. Daniel stepped back inside holding an envelope. Thick. Official. He did not raise his voice. He did not smile. He simply walked toward the table. The room went quiet as Daniel returned to the dining table holding the envelope. The hum of the printer faded into silence. Every face turned toward him. Margaret forced a smile. What is that? She asked. Daniel placed the envelope gently on the table. Documents. He said. Henry chuckled. More excuses. He said. Daniel did not respond immediately. He pulled out the papers slowly. Neatly. As if time belonged to him. Alicia leaned forward. Daniel. She whispered. What are you doing? Daniel looked at her calmly. Answering questions. He said. He slid the first page toward Henry. The title clear. Property deed transfer confirmation. Henry squinted. Then frowned. What is this nonsense? Daniel spoke evenly. It is the deed to this house, he said. Registered solely in my name. Laughter burst from the table. Short. Disbelieving. Margaret waved her hand. Do not be ridiculous, she said. This house has been in our family for years. Daniel nodded. I purchased it 3 years ago, he said. When it was facing foreclosure. Silence crept back in. Slow. Uncomfortable. A cousin leaned forward reading the page. Wait, he said. That is real. Alicia's face drained of color. Daniel, she said. You never told me. Daniel met her eyes. You never asked, he said. Henry pushed the paper back. This is some trick, he said. You would have told us. Daniel replied. I chose to listen instead. Margaret's voice trembled. Why would you hide something like that? Daniel answered softly. To see who respected me without it. The words landed heavy. Alicia covered her mouth. Tears forming. All this time, she whispered. Daniel turned to the table. Every joke. Every insult. Every reminder that I did not belong. He said. You were comfortable saying those things because you believed I had nothing. Henry stood abruptly. This is outrageous, he said. Daniel remained seated. Calm. I am not asking anyone to leave, he said. I am simply stating facts. Margaret looked around desperate. Alicia. Say something. Alicia stared at Daniel. I am sorry, she said. I did not know. Daniel nodded. That is true, he said. But you laughed. The table fell apart into whispers. Excuses. Justifications. Daniel gathered the papers. Placed them back in the envelope. I invited you to dinner in my home many times, he said. I sat quietly. I listened. Tonight I wanted to see if respect would appear on its own. He stood. Straightened his jacket. It did not. Henry's anger faltered. So what now? He asked. Daniel answered. Now you finish your meal, he said. And tomorrow we discuss timelines. Margaret gasped. Timelines for what? Daniel replied calmly. For finding another place to live. Alicia sobbed. Daniel, please. Daniel looked at her with sadness, not anger. We will talk, he said. But not tonight. He turned toward the hallway. The house felt different now. Lighter. Behind him no one laughed. The truth had finally taken its seat at the table. The night ended without dessert. Without laughter. Without anyone asking Daniel to stay. Plate sat untouched. Wine glasses half full. The room heavy with a truth no one had prepared for. Daniel walked upstairs slowly. Each step steady. Measured. Alicia followed him. Her footsteps hesitant. Daniel. She said softly. Please wait. Daniel stopped at the top of the stairs but did not turn. I waited for years, he said. Tonight you can wait a moment. She swallowed hard. I never meant to hurt you, she said. Daniel finally turned. His voice calm. But firm. You did not mean to protect me either, he said. Alicia's shoulders dropped. Tears rolled freely now. I did not know about the house, she repeated. Daniel nodded. That part is true. He walked into the bedroom. The room they shared. Or thought they shared. He opened the closet and removed a small suitcase. Not rushing. Not angry. Alicia stood frozen. What are you doing? Daniel folded a shirt carefully. Giving us space. He said. She stepped closer. You are not leaving. She said. Daniel met her eyes. I am not leaving my house. He said. I am stepping back from you. Downstairs Margaret paced. Her voice sharp. This is ridiculous. She snapped. We raised you better than this, Alicia. Henry sat stiff in his chair. His pride cracked. But not yet broken. We cannot let him do this. Henry said. We will talk to a lawyer. The cousin shook his head. I think he already did. Margaret stopped pacing. Her face pale. You are saying he can just throw us out? The cousin replied quietly. Legally. Yes. Upstairs Daniel zipped the suitcase. He looked around the room. Memories everywhere. But clarity louder than nostalgia. Alicia sat on the bed. Her hands trembling. What do you want from me? She asked. Daniel answered honestly. Respect. He said. And silence until I decide what comes next. She nodded slowly. I will do anything. Daniel shook his head. That is the problem. He said. You only offer things when you think you are losing something. He picked up the suitcase. I will be in the guest room tonight. He said. He walked past her. Not cruel. Not gentle. Just finished. The next morning sunlight filled the house. But the warmth was gone. Daniel woke early. Made coffee. Sat at the table alone. Henry came downstairs. His voice quieter than before. We need to talk. Daniel gestured to the chair. Sit. Henry cleared his throat. You embarrassed us. He said. Daniel looked at him steadily. You embarrassed yourselves. He replied. Henry stiffened. You could have told us. Daniel leaned forward. Would it have changed how you spoke to me before? He asked. Henry did not answer. Margaret entered. Her tone forced polite. We can fix this. She said. We are family. Daniel sipped his coffee. Family does not mock. He said. Family does not measure worth by income. Margaret's eyes darted. We were joking. Daniel nodded. Jokes reveal comfort. He placed an envelope on the table. Notice. He said. You have 30 days. Margaret gasped. Henry clenched his jaw. Daniel stood. I will not rush you. He said. But I will not extend it. Alicia appeared at the doorway. Her voice small. What about us? Daniel looked at her. That depends on whether you want a partner. Or a position. She lowered her head. Daniel walked out the front door. The same door they believed belonged to them. Outside he breathed deeply. The air felt cleaner. He dialed a number. Yes. He said. Begin phase 2. Across the city paperwork moved. Accounts shifted. Arrangements finalized. That evening Daniel returned. Not to confrontation. But to peace. The house was quieter. The laughter gone. The noise replaced by reflection. And for the first time, Daniel felt at home. The final weeks passed slowly but clearly. No shouting. No late-night arguments. Just the sound of packing boxes and footsteps moving through rooms that no longer felt welcoming. Daniel kept his routine steady. Morning walks. Work. Evenings spent reading in the guest room. He did not avoid Alicia. But he did not chase her either. Alicia tried at first. Small gestures. Cooking meals. Apologies whispered when she thought he was tired enough to soften. Daniel thanked her politely. And kept his distance. Margaret and Henry grew quieter as the days passed. The confidence that once filled the house drained away. They spoke in low voices. Avoided Daniel's gaze. One afternoon Daniel sat at the dining table reviewing documents. The same table where laughter once circled him like knives. Henry approached slowly. "I owe you an apology," he said. Daniel looked up. Listening. Henry continued. "I judged you. I spoke down to you. Because I thought money made me better." Daniel nodded. "That is honesty," he said. Henry exhaled. "I was wrong." Daniel replied calmly. "Yes." No forgiveness offered. No rejection either. Just truth. Margaret never apologized. But she stopped speaking. Which for her was loud enough. On the final day boxes lined the hallway. The house echoed. Not empty. But reset. Alicia stood near the door holding her coat. Her eyes red but steady. "I know I failed you," she said. "I laughed when I should have defended you." Daniel met her eyes. "That is what hurt most," he said. She nodded. "I understand if you cannot forgive me." Daniel paused. "Forgiveness is not the same as rebuilding," he said. "I am still deciding what peace looks like for me." Alicia swallowed. "Do you still love me?" Daniel answered honestly. "I love who I thought you were," he said. "Now I am learning who you are." The words landed gently. But firmly. They walked to the door together. No holding hands. No anger. Henry and Margaret left first. Their footsteps heavy. The door closed behind them. Alicia lingered. Then turned back once more. "I am sorry," she said. Daniel nodded. "I know." She left. The house fell silent. Daniel stood alone in the living room. Sunlight spilled across the floor. The same floor he had paid for. The same space he had been told he did not deserve. He sat down slowly. Breathing deeply. For the first time. There was no audience. In the weeks that followed Daniel changed little. He replaced furniture that carried too much memory. Opened windows. Let the house become his. Friends noticed a shift. Not louder. Not richer. Calmer. Daniel hosted dinners again. Smaller. Kinder. People who listened. When asked why he never mentioned owning the house before, he answered simply. "Because I wanted to see who respected me without knowing." The lesson stayed with him. Alicia found her own place. Her own routine. She learned what silence sounded like without an audience. Sometimes she passed the old house. And kept walking. Daniel planted a tree in the backyard. Not for celebration. For grounding. As the seasons changed. So did he. He no longer sat quietly while being diminished. He no longer raised his voice either. He had learned that power does not announce itself. It waits. It observes. And when it speaks, it does not need permission. The house stood firm. Not because of ownership. But because it finally held respect. And Daniel Brooks, the man they once laughed at, had never needed to prove anything. He only needed time.